I thank you, Jim and Sawney and everyone for all that you do for the school. And you mentioned the muffins. My favorite line this morning, I won't say who this was, but a mother said to me, I said, welcome, I'm really glad you're here. And she said, oh, I wouldn't miss it. I love the donuts. and I thought it was our teachers. So I want to talk, I guess the title of this talk is The Door and the Sill, a campaign on the line. And part of my talk today is about something that's really important, and I think even historic, and that's this. We are publicly going to announce a capital campaign this fall, and I think it will set the course of the school, like any good campaign, and certainly like this one. And it's a moment that I think we want to celebrate, and it's a moment I'm tremendously excited about. But to get there and to talk about that, and to talk about the past and the future, and how a great school, I think, should really try to locate itself right on that line, I'll do what some of you would not be surprised about if you know me, and that is, I want to do that by talking about a metaphor, and then I'll explain what that place looks like, that line where the past and the future meet, by telling a story about a teacher. Some of these remarks are parts of it, or some of the threads I've shared with the faculty, and it's guiding some of the work we do. And it's an idea that I'm really interested in. Where do you want to find yourself in time as a school? And the metaphor we find with a great teacher named Don Oscarson, who some of you may know or have heard about if you were a graduate. He was a great Latin teacher who died in 2004 after serving the school for 4 decades. And Oski, as he was known, was legendary for his teaching and for his mentoring of students, but also for his golden retrievers, a succession of dog-pound adoptees, which he spoiled and fattened, and he would sneak them charcoal chef cheeseburgers under the table every night, such that they lived short and happy lives. And this matters because one of his dogs is in the background of this little story, and it's a story about how a great school and even a successful capital campaign can find itself at that place where the past and the future merge. You see, for many years, I wanted to replace the front doors to the main entrance of Taft, those steps that you probably walked up the first time you came here. I wanted to replace those doors because they were old and they were battered and they were leaky. But while Oski was alive, there was no point in doing it because Caesar, the most irritable of all of his dogs, announced that he wanted to come in by clawing grizzly style at the door. And so the front door of one of the great schools of the nation was an eyesore. It was splitting, it was peeling, and gouged. A year or so after Oski died, I contracted the best millwork firm in Connecticut, and I spoke to the owner about replacing the doors. And he said to me, you know that the stone on the top step is so cupped and so worn from the years that we're gonna have to pull it out. Because if we don't pull it out, we won't be able to get a weather-tight seal there. And I said, we need to keep that stone. Can't you cut the door to meet the stone? And he did just that. And you can see that if you look down at your feet when you come in, that wood curving gently to kiss the stone in a marriage of the past and the present. And that line, I think, is where a school should live. At that line between that which is granite and fixed and traditional meets and joins all that is shaped and innovative and improving. And I think that line is where you'll find this capital campaign, and it's a great place to be. So the campaign we're announcing will be called Ever Taft and Even Stronger, and even the tag will tell you that what the campaign is about. It's about preserving the great historical elements of this institution, that's the Ever Taft half, if you will, while also indicating that we know we want to get better, that we have to innovate, we have to evolve, and that's the even stronger half. It's an insistence in equal measure that the need to honor what we've always been, while we also shape what we might yet be. And so we set out to do something very special. That's a campaign in which we hope to raise $175 million, $150 in capital, and $25 in annual giving. And in simple terms, our goal is to sustain excellence in the future, in faculty, in students, in campus, and in programs. As of today, and reaching back the 5 years of our quiet phase, we've raised a combined annual and capital of $128 million. It's a fine start. We've got a lot of work yet to do. I see ahead of us great challenges and great opportunity. Now, first, I'm glad to see no one's run for the exits. But as parents, you should know the case. You should know why we do this. And here's the case. And in a way, Jim alluded to it. As a school, we offer an excellent education, even as we are, in relative terms, under-endowed compared to our peer schools. Our endowment, as he said, at just over $200 million. Our competitor schools, our closest peer schools, double that. And we achieve excellence through a crystal clarity of mission, great fiscal discipline, incredible commitment in faculty and staff, and wonderful generosity of alumni and parents. We are, you might say, the low-cost provider. Now, having a smaller endowment than your competitor schools means, obviously, that there are constraints on faculty and staff compensation and benefits, on financial aid, on capital expenditures to our campus, and on the ways in which you can expand your academic and extracurricular offerings. They're constraints. They're realities. Now, a school or college in this position, I think, can excel for a while, but not forever. Over the long term, you end up making tactical and not strategic decisions. One day you wake up and you realize you're not an aspiration, you're a compromise. And we won't let that happen. There is no question in my mind that we're in an extraordinarily strong position today, but we want to ensure that excellence in the future, and excellence has a cost. The campaign is simple. We want to raise funds to increase the endowment in order that Taft remains one of the preeminent schools in the nation. And always remember this immutable fact: endowment equals destiny. So in a real way, the campaign will allow us to preserve those fundamental qualities, the values and beliefs that are essential to our identity and so critical to our work that I cannot believe there ever was or ever will be a time that we would not cleave to them. There is a granite step, as it were, and this campaign is to help us ensure it's cemented. So what is that step? What is it about this place that we can never lose? I might suggest 5 things. You would probably have similar ones and maybe even some others. The first, of course, is the obvious. It's where you always should start with any organization. It's mission. The education of the whole student. This is a mission that says that our education is at once intellectual and moral, spiritual, physical, and aesthetic. That's where we always should begin. And the fact that other schools may say something like that does not make it any less true for us today. The question is, how rigorously and how creatively, how enthusiastically and passionately do you live out that mission? Second, I think, is this. We remember that the classroom is the most important thing we do. You might say, does that square with the idea that this is the education of the whole student? Of course it does. We can still remind ourselves that we are a school with a reputation for academic rigor and excellence, and we must begin there. Third, there's something about this school, there's something in, I think, our historical DNA, if you will, in which we relentlessly seek excellence in all facets of school life. We do not brook complacency here. We hold ourselves to impossibly high standards as faculty and as students, and we are perpetually trying to get better. Fourth, we believe that our campus makes possible the mission. We cannot separate the work we do, the close relationships we have, the teaching moments that appear, the communal spirit we feel. We cannot separate that from the campus, from the quads, the hallways, and these buildings. And then I think fifth, we're a school that is built on a community that has some central values to it, and they are timeless. Some of them you've seen and you see every day, etched in stone and wood and glass, and others are just part of the vernacular we talk about every day. Values like service and honor, respect, hard work, humor, considerateness of others. So I think of those, if you will, those 5 areas as the granite step on which we all tread. I think a school better have a granite step. It better be really visible, and its faculty, trustees, and parents better believe in it. In some ways, I would argue the campaign is the means by which we can keep this step. But I'd add this. To be entirely granite would be to condemn a school to some kind of stone age. And there's something attractively restless and striving and reaching about Taft. We have always been that door, a school that's perpetually reshaping itself, finding edges in a changing landscape. And this also is the campaign. It's about getting better. It's about perfecting ourselves. The campaign has 5 specific goals, and you should understand them. And I think you would applaud and recognize them. The first is this. The campaign's goal is to ensure that we have the finest faculty in the world. Second, we want to provide financial aid that allows us to enroll the ideal student body. Third, we want to offer academic and co-curricular programs relevant to the 21st century. Fourth, we want to steward this beautiful and state-of-the-art campus. And fifth, we want to strengthen a robust annual giving program. So let's look at these quickly. We must affirm the faculty. There is no resource more important. And our challenge is very simple: to find, recruit, and retain the finest teachers, to compete with our peer schools for the best. And this is a competitive niche. We have to offer competitive salaries, professional growth and support, superior benefits, and high-quality housing. Second, we want to enroll a diverse community of bright and talented boys and girls of high character. You should know that on a relative basis, Taft commits more of its resources than any peer school to financial aid. Think larger slice of a smaller pie. But even doing that, each year we have to turn away highly qualified students because we simply don't have the scholarship dollars, and in particular for middle-class families. And we must increase our financial aid budget, or we're going to run the risk that the best and the brightest might not be able to come to Taft. Third, we want to have a continually evolving and I think challenging and relevant program of academics and curriculars. And we are pushing this in new directions, I think many of which will need funding and ones which we hope to expand. We are initiating and expanding our focus on global studies. We have a new directorship position. We have new courses, outside speakers, program of summer study, a diploma track. And all of this is guided by the core belief that, our core philosophy, that if our students are going to graduate and be, I think, informed and effective global leaders, they need rehearsal here. We're going to deepen and broaden our commitment to the motto of service of the school with the opening in 2014 of the Global Scholar Center, which is an intellectual and service partnership with Waterbury, municipal leaders in the school system there. And this will be a program in which Taft students will partner with Waterbury students and faculty, take part in seminar discussions, outside speakers, and internships. We are leaning into new areas of research and partnership and scholarship and environmental stewardship. I think that the school today has a deep obligation to graduate scientifically literate students, those who are going to be able to be part of decisions and policy making that will affect the globe. And we're committed to ways in which academic technology can deepen learning. We're really heavily invested in that sector, and we're driven by the belief that technology has changed everything about education. Fourth, we want to steward a campus that is so lovely that I think our obligation to it is practical as well as moral. You probably have noticed that over the past 10 years, we have increased our CapEx funding to ensure that the campus remains beautiful. We have renovated key spaces. But the truth is, we're an old campus, and there's much yet to do, in particular in renovating some of the older dormitories, some of the arts facilities, and athletics. And of course, finally, the campaign is hopefully one in which our annual giving is sustained and even made stronger. I'm convinced that when we complete this campaign, we will be at once the same school and a better one. And I never want to relax. I never want to be complacent. We must continually be thinking, how can we secure the future of this great school? How can we leave it to future generations even stronger than it is? Now, if you were to look for this campaign case statement, you'd find it where I left it. It's right where that granite step and the wooden door meet, and it's where we do our best work. And perhaps the best way, and I say this in pulling this talk to a close, the best way to think about this effort to live at the line between the past and the future is to think of a teacher who so eagerly wanted to be part of the campaign, but who tragically passed away this July. And a lot of us are still coming to terms with Taft without longtime director of admissions and my assistant headmaster for alumni affairs, Ferdy Wandelt. And some of you didn't know him. If you didn't, you'd need to, because you really can't know this place without knowing and honoring him. Taft was Ferdy's life. He came to Taft from Princeton, New Jersey, as a lower mid in 1962, and there would begin a remarkable story of a man in a school. It was not love at first sight, he often reminded me. His recommendations described an energetic boy, but one with modest academic record, a fine athlete, though, and potential leader, someone who would befriend anybody. But Taft was hard for Ferdy. And I would say, by the way, that like so many great educators, I think his empathy came from the understanding that being a teenager is not easy. and being a student is not easy. His teacher and advisor comments were peppered with phrases like beginning to apply himself more consistently. You may have received one of those. Academic things do not come easy. If he could only learn to sustain his interest. Success in his classes came with great labor. And if he was not an academic leader, though, he was in all other ways. His teachers saw maturity and kindness and strength in him. As a human being, of course, Ferdy is superb, wrote the legendary Bill Sullivan. He deserves commendation for his persistent effort and his many contributions to campus life, noted Assistant Headmaster Alvin Reef Sr. He is the finest boy, wrote Don Oscarson. And his advisor and soon-to-be headmaster Lance Odden spoke of his leadership as a monitor and as an athlete. He graduated from Taft in 1966, and then almost immediately after graduating from UNC, he returned home. He came back to Taft. And within a few years, he became the director of admissions, and there was no one like him. Thousands of families first came to know Taft, sitting in his office talking to him. He was the best in the business. He was a legend. And after he died in July, I heard from heads of schools and admissions directors from all over the country, in fact, all over the globe. And they told me stories about how he had mentored them, how he had changed the face of admissions, how he had opened markets, not just for Taft, but indeed for their school. I heard from countless parents and graduates, scores of emails on that first day, every one with a story of talking with Ferdy, stories of advice and encouragement and of wisdom. For over 40 years, he served Taft with singular distinction and passion and love, a brilliant admissions mind, a caring advisor, and a sturdy mentor. He was a man of incredible importance to me. I can't tell you how many times he came and stood in front of my desk for a 5-minute talk that became hours. He loved people. His ability to read you in only the briefest of interview or the shortest conversation was mind-boggling. He connected. When an anxious advisee or a new teacher sat in his office, you felt that you were at the seat of wisdom and calm and caring. And if you were lucky and he said, "You're the best," as he often did, you almost felt beatified. So for Ferdy, for many of us, he was that granite step that I spoke of. Taft was Ferdy Wandelt. He was the face of tradition and the history and the past. The school and everything that it symbolized ran red in his veins. He was stubbornly traditional, even old-fashioned. He did not write emails, he wrote letters. He thought Taft students should be honest, they should work hard, and they should treat others with respect. He didn't use fancy educational jargon about 21st century skills and cultural competencies. He talked about being nice, about doing the right thing, about giving your best. He never set foot on this campus without a blazer and a tie. When he disapproved of something here, he said, "That's not Taft. That's not who we are." If you asked yourself, who is the school's steward of tradition? Who is the school's defender of the past? A lot of faculty, a lot of parents, and a lot of alumni would have said, Ferdy Wandelt. And he would have been right, and he wouldn't have been offended. But he was also something else. He was a man who had a radically innovative vision of what the school could be, and he had a relentless insistence that we could get better. When he became head of admissions, Taft was a pretty provincial place in the early 70s. In his first year of admissions, there were 9 international students on campus. And if Taft's reputation for scholarship was solid, it was not yet known as one of the truly great academic institutions. Ferdy, led by his great friend and headmaster Lance Odden, changed that. Together, they saw a different school, one that would have a distinctly global reach and identity, one that brought incredibly talented students from all over the United States and the world, from third-generation Taft families, from families who had never had someone go to college, through European exchange programs like Assist, and from this incredible network of friends that he alone had created, from the alphabet of nations, from America to Zimbabwe. He and I used to laugh that the man who struggled to pass math at Taft was now bringing in middlers who would complete BC calculus. That the man who had almost never been out of the country when he took the job was flying the globe to tell the Taft story. And it's important that you realize how bold and courageous this was. When he took over, there weren't constituents clamoring for his vision, but he could see what Taft might look like. I wish I was a fly on the wall when he and Lance Odden talked about who we might become, how we might get better. He saw a school of many races and ethnicities, where you heard a score of languages, where bright and curious and passionate students came together with people who were different than them, and they challenged them, and they became smarter, and they learned things, and they developed skills, they became leaders. The students you saw today in the classrooms in the hallway, they are the children of his vision. They are the inevitable bequest of a great man. Ferdy believed we should never stop striving to perfect ourselves as an institution. His love for this school expressed itself in many ways, but especially in a fierce desire not only to preserve, but also to improve. To embrace the past and the future with equal fervor strikes me as remarkable. To live on that line and in that moment for so long and with such intensity, I find inspiring. And so I'll remember him not only as a man who was one of the staunchest defenders of our past, but also as one of the school's boldest visionaries and bravest innovators. I learned so many things from him. I learned that there was much that we had to hold on to, but I also learned that there was much we should reach for. My last conversation with him was in late June. We ended up talking about all kinds of things, family and summer plans. We talked about the campaign, and we talked travel, we talked meetings, events, raising money. He could not wait to get going. He wanted to make Taft better. Last month, I shared with the faculty that one of my favorite writers, Henry Thoreau, said this. It's my favorite quotation of his. In any weather, at any hour of the day or night, I have been anxious to improve the nick of time and notch it on my stick too, to stand on the meeting of the two eternities, the past and the future, which is precisely the present moment, and to toe that line. I like the urgency and the hope, the faith that when we are fully in the present and bravely standing at the junction between the past and the future, we can actually improve our existence. That's the sentiment behind this school, the sentiment behind the campaign. It's how we might greet every day, muscular in the conviction that our past must be preserved, and incandescent with the faith that we can shape our future. So this line at Wood and Stone, it's where we change your children's lives, it's where we grow the school, it's where we find our best selves. And as you can tell, it's a lovely place to be, and I hope you'll join me on that line. And with that, and with the spirit of gratefulness and welcome, I hope you all have a wonderful day at Taft. Thank you.